Hey folks, Leonardo Lawsoni here, the car guru. It's funny, we went on this cruise, and a lot of people on the cruise ship are not natural English speakers. And whenever I would give them my credit card or my room key or something to charge something, they would say, "Hello, Leonard," or "Thank you, Leonard." I'd look at my wife and say, "Really? Is my name that difficult? Is it not a common thing, Leonard? Or is that just how we English speakers say it?" Oh well, this is Lenny. How about that? Lenny Lawson, the car guru, and today I'm gonna enlighten you a little bit on what happens when you wreck your car. What should happen? You know, basically there are different levels of damage, as we all know. You've probably been through this before, maybe not. I hope you haven't. I remember my 16-year-old newly minted driver. I was out of town, of course, and she was driving home from school and overcorrected, spun out I think it was a 1997 VW Jetta, spun it out, took out a fence row and a couple trees, and let's see, it totaled the vehicle. All the airbags went off and she was fine. So, you know, a totaled car solves the problem, one would think. You know, if it's totaled, then the insurance company is going to pay you for it, right? Or are they going to pay you what it's worth? Or are they going to pay you what they think it's worth? And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to make sure you get the most for your car when the insurance company isn't offering you enough. I mean, do you just take what they offer you, or do you push back a little? I've had to push back just about every time. I didn't have to push back too much recently, and I'll tell you what happened to us. We had two vehicles. One of them was a Nissan Rogue, the other was a Subaru. And we had traded for these vehicles. We were going to sell them. Sometimes my detail shop gets backed up here at Gateway Ford and Gateway Nissan, and so I have to send it out. So we have these great guys that we work with, and they have a little business over here with a car wash, and they detail cars. So we sent them over there to get them detailed. And that night, their detail shop catches fire and burns to the ground. And these vehicles are sitting right beside the detail shop. So they weren't close enough for it to really damage the paint or melt anything, but they were just inundated with smoke, and they smell terrible. Now, will that ever come out? I don't know. It might not. But since they have, they're a licensed business, they're insured, they turned it into their insurance company. The insurance company is going to pay for the cars. So, what most people would do is say, "Oh, well, that's good." They're like in our particular case, we had 11,001. Insurance company is paying us 14. Why is that? Well, because, the insurance company pays you what the vehicle is worth, retail. They don't pay you what you have in it. Just like if you had that car and you had a $20,000 payoff, they're not paying you based on your payoff. They're paying you based on what the car's worth. That's all they're obligated to do, right? So in this particular case, we had $11,000 in that car, and they're paying us $14,000. The other car, I think it's the Subaru, we had $9,000 in, and they're paying us $11,500. So, those are decent numbers. We've done our research, and that's, that's fair. But here's what's going to happen. They're going to pay $14,000 and $11,500 and take those cars away, and they're going to sell them at a salvage auction because the cars are fine. They just smell bad. They smell like smoke. Somebody will buy those cars, maybe replace the interior or just clean them out really good, put some air fresheners in them, and sell those cars and make money, even though they will now have salvage titles. Well, my nephew Max comes in here and says, "Lenny, if they're going to pay us $14,000, the salvage value they're saying is $1,300. So we subtract $1,300 from $14,000. We can actually have that car and get a check for $12,700. $14,000 minus the $1,300 salvage. So what are we going to do then? Well, we're going to clean it up. We're going to unstink it, and we're going to sell it probably at an auction or sell it ourselves. What will that car bring at auction? We think that at a salvage auction, it'll bring between $5,000 to $7,000. Now that is a home run, folks. And you could do the same thing if you had, the resources and you had, the ability to, clean these cars up and do that. Insurance companies will let you do that as well, but most people just don't have time to do that. They think, oh, well, that's what the insurance company's paying. We got to take that. No, you don't. Same deal with the Subaru. They're going to pay us $11,500. The salvage is $1,000, so we'll have $10,500, a check for $10,500, and get to keep the car on that Subaru. Pretty late model Subaru. Now, I'm not real keen on selling cars with salvage titles. That is not what we do, ever. I mean, I don't even like to trade for cars with salvage titles. If I do, I get a bid from somebody else and that will deal with those kind of things and let them have it. I don't want my dealerships to be associated with selling vehicles with salvage titles. But if I can take it to a salvage auction myself, why wouldn't I do that? So that's what we're going to do. You have a lot more options with insurance companies, especially when you have wrecked vehicles. I'm going to talk about different levels of damage to different cars and things that you need to think about doing when you have a damaged vehicle. And it could be minor damage, it could be just cosmetic, very limited damage. It could be what I call minor, or it could be a major or light major damage or a major. And so we're going to talk about those 4 different classifications and things that you need to think about before you settle with an insurance company. I'll be back here in just a minute. Okay, so I said I was going to talk about settling with an insurance company as far as the dollar value. So what are they doing to determine the value of your car? Well, they have guidebooks. I'm sure State Farm and Allstate and Nationwide and Liberty, they all have certain resources that they go to. When we're trying to determine the value of a car, we're looking at the J.D. Power, which used to be NADA. We're looking at a Black Book, which is an auction report. We're looking at Manheim auction reports, what cars are actually bringing at the auction. We're looking at the internet in itself, that we have this tool that summarizes what people are asking for vehicles online. That gives us an idea what the retail value of vehicles are. It's not necessarily what they're selling for, it's what people are asking for them. So we have all different types of resources to check that out. I don't know how many resources the insurance companies use, but I know they're not always accurate. I can't tell you how many customers have come to me and said, Lenny, what's my car worth? My insurance company isn't getting even close to my payoff, and I thought I had equity in the car. So we'll look it up, and the insurance company's wrong. And what you have to give the insurance company is evidence. If you have evidence, and it's reliable evidence, then maybe they'll pay you a little bit more. I mean, that's happened to me so many times over the years where, like I said, a customer came in and asked me what the value was. They're trying to settle with an insurance company, or I was trying to settle with an insurance company because a vehicle was stolen off of our lot. That's happened a bunch. Or if, a vehicle was wrecked by one of my employees or even a customer. I've had customers take a vehicle on demo drive and total it while they're on the demo ride. Well, we have to settle with it with some insurance company, either theirs or ours or a combination of the two. But the thing that you want to have done is you want to be made whole if you have to settle with an insurance company on a total loss. And if the insurance company isn't offering you enough, that's when you reach out to a car dealer, maybe somebody that you know, maybe me, and you send us the specs and we give you some numbers and we print it out. You take it to the insurance company and say, well, you're offering me, $2,500 less than what these dealers say the book value is, and here's a printout for that. And I've looked at other vehicles on the internet, and it's going to cost at least this much to replace my car. You've got to at least pay me that much. Most of the time, the insurance companies will relent, but they won't if you say, well, my car's worth more than that. You have to be able to prove it. You have to give them evidence, okay? So let's talk about different types of damage and what you need to be thinking about. I mean, if you have very limited, no paint work, damage to your car, cosmetic stuff, dents, minor dents and dings, like you get at Walmart or someplace. If you run into a pole, less than, let's say it's under 5 miles an hour and you just break the paint or something like that, minor bumper collisions, I don't know that you want to report that to your insurance company. I wouldn't, because if you do, it could have a negative impact on the rate that you're having to pay. If I had some minor damage like that, even minor hail damage, well, hail damage may be a little bit different because insurance companies look at that a little bit differently. I think that applies to your comprehensive coverage. But when it comes to collision, they're liable to go sideways on you if you file claims. So the best thing to do is to go to a car dealership, maybe where you bought your car, and just go speak to the sales manager and say, listen, I've got some minor door dings and stuff that I need to get taken care of, or some very minor paint work. I mean, could you get your paint guy or your dent guy or your wheel guy, that's another thing that we see a lot, to maybe put me on their list and fix my vehicle for me? Because we have these people, and all dealers do, that come to the dealership. The paint guy can paint bumpers out there on the lot. The wheel guy can take all of the scratches out of your wheels for a very affordable price. You don't have to pay $1,500 for a new wheel, on an exotic car, or $600-700 for a factory wheel. No, you can get it fixed for about $100, but not if you don't go to the dealership. That's another good reason to have a good relationship with the people that work there, because they can help you out, especially in the sales department. Don't let them forget you, because they can be very handy. Well, then you go to, and there I'm talking about repairs under $500, okay? In the $500 to $5,000 range, I still call that minor. I used to not call that minor. I remember one time I was driving home, 1974, driving a brand new SS Nova. Had been to a concert in Kingsport, and had dropped off my girlfriend, who is my wife now, and was driving home. I made it within a mile of my house. I don't know if I nodded off or just what the deal was, but I spun out and I hit a bank. I don't think I took out any fences, but yeah, it popped back out into the road, headed in the exact direction I had been going. I'd spun around 180 degrees, and I thought I was hallucinating. But so I just put the vehicle in park, sat there for a second, then I put it in drive and started to go forward, and it was going nowhere. I put it back in park, got out of the car, looked, and the left front wheel was bent completely underneath the vehicle. I couldn't see it. There was a dent on every corner of that vehicle. You know how much the estimate was? This is 1974. Estimate was $984. It's not like that anymore. A headlight costs that much now. So, what used to be minor is not minor anymore. Is it $500 to $5,000? This is where you might have one body panel that's damaged. You might have to replace it, or some type of a dent repair, which would require some body filler. Going to have some paint work. Let's say it's your left front fender. Probably going to have to blend it into the door just to make sure everything matches. That's where you don't paint the whole door. You just paint part of the door, and you blend the paint. Because, even on white or black or most colors, you're going to have variations, especially if it's got a lot of metallic in it. And it could be a problem. Sometimes you have to paint the whole side of a car because it's metallic and you just can't get it to match. Sometimes trying to blend a door or blend a quarter panel, it just doesn't work. It still looks bad in certain light. So, sometimes you have minor assembly replacement like tail lights, side marker lights, mirrors, that kind of stuff. But, insurance companies don't really mind these. You can usually get these kind of repairs in and out of a shop. And the key here, though, as a car owner, is to take pictures of the damage, get a copy of the estimate, roll them up together, and print out the pictures, put it in an envelope, stick it in your glove box. Because when you go to trade cars, what's going to happen is that dealer or the individual that you're trying to sell a car to is going to pull a Carfax, and it's going to say that the car's been damaged. All the horns are blaring, red lights are flashing, caution lights are flashing, and they start discounting your car. If you've got that evidence, you can pull. It was just a mirror. It was just the right front fender. It makes them feel better, and they won't hit your car or discount your car as much as they would. They say, "Oh, okay, that is minor damage. Boy, that was smart of you to get these pictures. Who told you to do that?" Car guru. You ought to listen. So anyway, that's any type of minor damage, 5,000 to 500 to 5,000. That's what you need to do. Take pictures, and don't worry about trading the car or worrying about too much about depreciation, the value. Now, if you don't take pictures, then it's a problem. Okay, light major. This is possible airbag deployment. That's always a bad thing to see on a Carfax report. But again, you want to take pictures. It may have some minor frame damage, like up at the front, if it's got a frame. If it's a body-on-frame vehicle, like a truck, a full-size truck or a mid-size truck. We sell the Maverick, the Ford Maverick. Is it a body-on-frame? No, it's unibody. And that's where the body panels, the tub of the vehicle, the frame, the parts of the vehicle that you can't see, it's all covered up with the hood and fenders and quarter panels and doors. There's still a whole lot of structure underneath there. And it's called a unibody. It does not have a frame. The body is the frame. Probably 99% of all passenger cars and small to mid-size SUVs are unibody. And the problem with unibody is that you can get hit in the left front and it causes a crease on your roof on the right rear, or on one of the panels in the back, because that energy is transferred through the vehicle. And it's just like a wave, that goes in the ocean that comes to the shore. It just travels like that through the body. And so you just don't know. That's why you want to take your light major body, if it has any frame damage, ask the people who are doing the work, do you have a laser measuring system? And if they do, then you can feel a little bit better about things, because that means that when they're measuring your vehicle, they're going to be able to get it within a millimeter of the factory specs. And that's what you want, because you don't want to have a situation where you have excessive tire wear, where your car's going down the road, looks like it's crabbing down the road. I see that a lot. And it's just people who took their vehicle to the wrong body shop. But, this is a possible total loss depending on the value of your vehicle. This is anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000, and that'll total a lot of vehicles. That would have totaled, well, I mean, it is total. Of course, these two vehicles weren't wrecked, the Subaru and the Rogue, but they were smoke damage, but they had been wrecked. A hit like this could total them, because they typically, I think they look at about 70% of the vehicle of value. If the repairs are 70% of the value, then it's totaled. Different insurance companies look at that differently. And all it takes is a few airbags going off, and that can total a vehicle. Okay, when it gets into major repairs, we'll talk about that here in just a minute. One other thing about light major, if you have a twisted frame, or you have some where it's going to have to do a lot of paint work, sometimes you want them to total the car. And you can work with your insurance adjuster sometimes. And if it's close, sometimes if you have a good relationship with them, you've been a customer of theirs for a long time, they'll go ahead and total the car for you, because you're actually better off in some cases. Okay, for a major collision, that would be a badly twisted frame on a body-on-frame vehicle, or major unibody structure, major airbag deployment, kind of like my daughter's 1997 VW Jetta. Every airbag went off, and it was beat up pretty bad. Sometimes when you get drivetrain intrusion, like it gets into the motor, and they end up having to replace the motor. Major paint work, maybe even an all-over paint job. This is 15,000 plus. Cars are just, parts are so expensive. Insurance, more vehicles are being totaled now than ever before. That's one of the reasons why insurance rates are so high, is because it doesn't take much to total a vehicle. So, you have options on a total loss. Your insurance company can take the vehicle. If you have the resources, you can keep it, fix it with a salvage title like we are on these two vehicles. But, the thing about it is if it is totaled, then you have rights. I mean, you have the ability to negotiate. We talked about negotiation yesterday. Too many people just lay down. They just take what's offered them because they think that's all they can do. One of the things that you can do is just look at the adjuster. They make you a number and you just say, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. And, they may look at you and say, well, why do you think it's not acceptable? It's just not. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to get some values myself. I'm going to go talk to some dealers, do a little research, and then we'll talk about this again. They may just look at you and say, well, what if we did another $1,500? Let's just get this over with. Sometimes they'll do that. They're paid to settle claims, but they're also paid to minimize the amount of the settlement. Now, they're good people. They're not trying to rip you off. They're just trying to do their job and to get the claim settled. They don't like them to be drug out. I know a lot of adjusters. I respect them greatly. It's a very hard job because most of the people that you're dealing with are not happy, but it is okay to push back, and it's something I would definitely recommend. And picking the right body shop is just so critical. And if you have any questions about that, you can go to Google and see what their Google ratings are and see what people are saying about them. And you can also, just go talk to them. Do you have the latest state-of-the-art equipment? For example, if I wreck an F-150, it's all aluminum body. Do you have all the equipment that Ford recommends to be able to do, all of the rivets that are required in this body? Because Ford trucks, they're not welded together. They're riveted together. And you have to have the right equipment to work with aluminum. So the moral of the story, don't lay down. Don't let them push you around. If you have questions, call the guru, 423-552-2020, or send me an email to LennyLawson2020@gmail.com. And I'll see you on the next edition of My Car Guru.